There's such freedom to know that it's not all on me, that my children are responsible for their future. I'm not responsible for whether or not they're successful, whatever that means. They get to decide what success means for them.
You're listening to Parenting with Impact, the podcast for parents like you, raising complex kids to become capable, independent adults, even in this complicated world. Each episode brings expert insights and real-life strategies to help you parent with confidence, calm, and clarity. Here are your hosts, Elaine and Diane.
Welcome back, everybody, to another conversation in the Parenting with Impact podcast. Today, we get to hang with my friend, Georgia, who is a friend and a colleague and a parent and an advocate and a parent educator and a parent mentor and an impact parent and an impact trainer and a dear friend, and has really been in the impact community for not quite a decade, but coming up on it. And we were talking about something completely unrelated a few weeks ago, and I realized I've never had her on the podcast for a success story. So I am super excited to welcome you, Georgia. Georgia Frew is here. She is a parent mentor in Coweta County. She is a parent, and I am thrilled to have you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's so exciting to have you here. So we were trying to figure out kind of how to position the conversation, and I started asking questions that Georgia was going to answer, and I realized, wait. Let's just go to the podcast.
Just hit record.
So Georgia, how did you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Impact Parents before you tell us how you got started with us?
So I was a parent mentor for Coweta County Schools. And before that, I worked for Parent to Parent of Georgia, which is a nonprofit that supports parents who have children with disabilities. It's a statewide organization. And that gave me an amazing education on really opened the doors to an amazing community of people all over Georgia. And really how I started there, I really didn't sign up to be in the disability community at all. I have a child. My son, Augie, was diagnosed with autism when he was 2. And I like to say that if there was a list of clubs to sign up for, I would not have gone to the table that said autism and signed up for the autism club. But what I have found is that being part of the autism community and being connected to the moms and the dads and the parents of kids with autism and being connected to the people with autism has it's been life-changing, and it's opened up the door to a career and a marriage, and it's where I am. It's where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I went to law school. You know that about me, and I never really knew why. I didn't really want to go to law school. I just kind of wanted to keep going to school because I was an English major, and nobody was signing up to give me a job.
Right.
And do what?
Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't really know why I went to law school because I didn't really want to be a lawyer. I practiced law for a little while. And then after Augie was born and I became a student of autism, and I started learning everything that I could about not just autism, but early intervention and about education and about IEPs. And I could read the law and I could understand it. And then one day in the parking lot of a health department, I realized that I could help other people, and I helped another mom who had just gotten the diagnosis of autism for her child, and it just became clear to me that this is what I was supposed to do, and that's what I've been doing ever since, is helping other parents, and so that's kind of where I got started.
I
As far as helping other people.
often say that motherhood is the necessity of invention. And I think, your story, my story, Diane's story, we do what we do because we needed help that wasn't readily available. And for you, it was helping people access the system and use the system and get the resources available and to them in the system, right? For me, it was the coach approach. But for both of us as parents, we were struggling to support these amazing kids who were on a different journey without the resources available that we understood how to use. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And at that point, we were in South Georgia where there really weren't a lot of resources. And Augie's prognosis wasn't good. I mean, they said it was doubtful that he would function in mainstream society, and I hope they aren't saying that these days. He's 22 now, and I hope they're not saying that to parents these days. But I mean, we just talked about it. He's in college now, and he's living with 3 friends, and he's doing very well.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't gonna accept that.
Mhm.
But they didn't have the therapy and a lot of the things that I would have had access to if we lived somewhere else. And so it was really up to me to build that and to learn all the things. And so I became, the floor time therapist and I became his therapist. But fast forward a few years, and I had my daughter Virginia, and I realized that public school just wasn't gonna work for Virginia. She just wasn't. For Augie, public school worked well for him. He fit in to public school. He had an IEP, and we advocated for him, and he did well in public school. And Virginia, just her brain was different, and it just wasn't working. Her anxiety was just so high, and so we decided to send her to a private school for kids who learn differently. Um, so they were having these coffees, like coffee and donuts or whatever. And so I went to one of the coffee and donuts after I dropped her off one morning, and I sat with a friend in the front of the room, and guess who I got to hear speak?
That's where it started. I remember that day, actually.
Yeah,
I
it
really do.
was.
Um, so were you already a parent mentor at this point? Do you remember?
Yes,
Okay. So you were working
I believe I was.
supporting other parents.
Yes,
You were a mom of 2 complex kids in 2 different schools, and, we got a chance to meet each other, and I remember specifically that presentation because I remember it was kind of the first time I introduced the notion of the different moms, the different parents, the different ways that parents show up. And if you've
right.
never done our parenting quiz, I'll put a link to it because that was kind of where it got its start. Um, and so from there, how did you start coming to be with us? What happened next?
I waited in line to talk to you afterwards because you had a line to talk to you afterwards because everybody wanted to talk to you. And I invited you. Well, I think I just started talking to you afterwards. But I invited you to speak in the school system, and I hosted you to come down and talk to the parents in Coweta County. And then you came down and you talked and did a presentation down in Coweta County, and and I invited my network of parents, and so I think that's where that started. And I think you and I just in the planning of that communicated and connected and realized that there was a strong connection there. And it was interesting. After that presentation, you took us through I don't remember if you did this at Bedford. You might have, but I remember very much when you did it in Coweta County. You did the Wheel of Life,
Mhm.
and because I brought my husband to that presentation, or maybe I brought him, or maybe I demanded that he come. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Right.
I don't remember. And we did the Wheel of Life, and of course he approached it differently. He did on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you rank yourself? And I doodled and drew pictures, and drew a bunch of artwork, and he ranked himself on a scale of 1 to 10 and then averaged them and he did some kind of mathematical equation, being being the accountant that he was. And you challenged us to choose one area that we wanted to focus on.
Okay.
And so the area that we chose together was the tone of our home. And so the next day or somewhere in that time, we had a conversation with our children who were probably in elementary school. Maybe, well, I guess Virginia was in middle school. So our children were both probably in middle school at that time. We had a conversation with our children about the tone of our home and what did we want the tone of our home to feel like. And it was interesting. It was a very it feels kind of personal to share the details of that conversation. But it opened up conversation that probably needed to happen that would have never happened. We didn't even know it needed to happen.
Right, because we go through life just doing. And so what the tone of the home asks you to think about is how do we want to be together?
Right.
And without the details, what was the essence of what you learned from that conversation with them?
Well, it just opened up a conversation that we didn't know that things were changing when Gary came home from work, things changed in a way that we didn't really know how that was affecting things. That it just opened up a conversation that was really valuable, because if you know something, then you can change it and you can tweak it. And it changed. It changed the way that we interacted with each other. It gave us kind of a common language to talk about it.
Yeah.
And opened up a door to be able to say, can we talk about this? That was valuable.
Well, and what really strikes me is that this was a conversation you weren't just having with your husband, but you were also having transparently with your kids.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. But that definitely led me to take Sanity School.
Yeah, right.
And then that led me to teach Sanity School.
So your first you took Sanity School as a parent, kind of with your parent hat on, and then you wanted a deeper dive, and so you took what we've always called the Sanity School certification program. Who knows where it will go in 2026 as we do more neuro-informed training, but we've had a training since, I want to say 2017, for professionals to learn the coach approach to be able to teach it in local communities. And so Georgia became certified and then started teaching Sanity School in Coweta County. Right? Do I remember that? Because I remember the first time we did it, we did kind of a hybrid where I came down once and we did something virtual, and we were experimenting with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
In those early years.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time I've taught it, it helps me. Because I believe when I teach things and I prepare things, it reminds me of it just helps me because it gets me back into the material and deeper into it and thinking about it. And I always learn from the people in the class and the conversation and the connections that happen. And so many times I show up to teach and I'm the one that learns. And that's what I love about the work that I do with parents. It's so often, I show up to support them and they end up being the ones that teach me and support me. It really is reciprocal.
I feel that more than I can possibly express. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and continue the conversation.
Okay.
Do you recognize current ADHD interventions fall short? At DIG Coaching, we have developed a new field of engineering and a new ADHD intervention called cognitive ergonomics from the inside out. To learn more, go to digcoaching.com/impact.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest is Georgia Frew. Georgia has a much longer last name, so is generous enough with the world to go by Georgia Frew. And we've been talking about her journey as a parent of complex kids, becoming first a parent in Sanity School and then a teacher of Sanity School. And I think he did group coaching at some point as well in there. Um, and it's so interesting how many people in our community are both professionals and parents who, we've got our parent hat on and then we're professionals and we know this stuff, but then we're parents and we're trying to apply it. And the coach approach becomes a really powerful way to improve the relationship with our kids and with ourselves. And I have a shared experience with you that the reason I love this work in part is because I keep learning and I keep growing and I get so much from it every time I experiment with it or I teach it or I coach. And I think it continues to improve me and my relationship with my kids. And so, like, why wouldn't I keep going with that? Right.
I would add that Sanity School improved every relationship that I have. I mean, not just the relationship that I have with my kids. It absolutely helped me show up in my relationship with my kids. And I mean, I have so many friends that talk about what a nightmare teenage years were. And I didn't really have that experience. I didn't have the experience of I mean, yeah, of course, there were some challenges. I mean, with the teenage years, but I think because of all the tools and the learning a different way of being, I was able to enter a relationship with my kids differently that allowed our relationship to be different. So it wasn't as challenging maybe as some people have. But I really do believe that Sanity School improved my marriage.
Mm.
I think it helped me show up differently in all my relationships. And I think one of the examples is assuming best intentions. I think it's so interesting every time that comes up in Sanity School, have the conversation in the room about assuming best intentions and how parents argue about whether or not they actually have but the kids have the best intentions. And and that's really not the point. I mean, like, whether or not they have best intentions is really not, it's really not the point, because if I assume that they have best intentions, then I'm going to show up differently.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show up with more compassion, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to look for, what the obstacles are. I'm going to just look at the whole situation differently.
Yeah.
I'm going to look with curiosity, maybe, instead of judgment.
Right. It's this, we call it ABI, assume best intention. And it's quintessentially a way to get out of judgment.
Mm,
And I think very often we as parents, when we've got complex kids or frustrating dynamics in the marriage, we begin to grow a little frustration, judgment, resentment, and then we want to hold on to it because we want to feel justified, right?
right.
Feeling
Yeah.
resentful or judgmental or whatever. And ABI kind of releases that. So we can let go of the judgment and come from the way we want to be instead of all of the aggravation that's built up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a game changer, and it's a lot of work. I mean, it takes a self-awareness,
Mhm.
and it takes, what I've found, and I mean, I've taught enough Sanity School classes to know that it's not for everyone. I mean, some people sign up for Sandy School and then they're like, "Yeah, this isn't really for me." And I'm like, "Okay," because some people, it's just not for some people, and I want to add yet, because some people sign up for Sandy School and then they drop out, and then, a couple years later maybe they're ready for it. So,
What do you
um,
makes people ready? Like, you've had enough experience with it. Like, who's the parent or the professional who's ready for the tools?
well, you're so much better at answering that question than I am, but I'll try.
Um,
And then I want to hear you answer that question. I think sometimes it's when they've hit rock bottom. I mean, they've tried everything they absolutely know to try, and I mean that they just feel like nothing has worked, and they're like, okay, whatever, just tell me, and I'll do whatever it is you want me to do.
Yeah.
And that's when they're ready. I think sometimes. Um, I think some parents are naturally curious and they're naturally learners. I mean, I think the parents that love to learn are the ones that are kind of naturally ready. And I think that's kind of why I love to learn. I'm just kind of a geek like that. I mean, like that. I've always just kind of liked to learn new things, and
Yeah.
I think
I
that
get
was
that.
part of kind of why I gravitated toward something new, something challenging. I mean, I think some are motivated to just be the best parent that they can be, and they see that they want to have strong relationships with their kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't you answer that question? What do you think makes a parent ready?
I think you've hit the highlights quite clearly. I think there are people who feel like they've tried everything and nothing's worked and they don't know what else to do, right? So there are times where we're the place of last resort, which is sad because if you started earlier, it'd be so much better.
Right, right,
We have a lot of people who will, play and dance and dabble and take a webinar, and then, as you say, it's years later before they finally come back and say, "Why didn't I do this earlier?" And now I'm ready. Um, and I do think the people who love to learn or who are natural kind of growers and self improvement kinds of people are really good. And people who want the relationship with their kids. I mean, I really do think you hit the highlights. The people who I think struggle with the coach approach in general are probably people who are either kind of stuck in this authoritative, they should listen to me style of parenting that
yeah,
may have worked in a previous world, but doesn't really work with the world we are raising these kids in. It doesn't work in the digital world in the same way. But they have to find that. They have to learn that. They have to find their path to a more collaborative approach. Because we haven't really talked about this, but the coach approach is a collaborative problem solving approach. And so it really asks parents to engage with their kids in a different way, in a more collaborative way. And sometimes it's hard for people who don't want to look, you know, who sometimes we want to be justified in our judgment and defense of our resentment, and it's still serving us, and until we want to let that go, it's hard to try something different. And that's
well,
where I agree with you. Not yet, but eventually I hope people will get there.
yeah. Well, and I think there's loss kind of to letting go, and with whenever there's change, there's loss and there's grief, and that's some people are not comfortable with that, and it's I would say it's a collaborative approach for sure, and it's also an adaptive approach in my mind, and I don't know if y'all use that language, but there's uncertainty, and you've got to kind of be willing to say, I don't really know the answers here, and I'm willing to wrestle with it and kind of play, willing to admit that I don't know the answer, and I'm willing to kind of work it out together, and that's hard. It's hard. You've got to unlearn things,
Yeah, for
and it's
sure.
hard to unlearn because then there's that letting go and there's that loss, and you've got to be willing to admit that really kind of what got you here is not going to move you forward.
It's not going to get you there. Yeah.
It's
I
not going to get
we
you.
do a lot of work now with parents of young adults. And I think part of what I hear myself say a lot is it took you 15, 17, 20, 24 years to get here. You're going to have to undo some habits before you can build the new ones,
Yeah,
right? Or some patterns
yeah.
maybe before you can create new habits. Because it is a shift in how we communicate. Um, but as you say, once you begin to kind of get it and use it, it permeates every relationship you have in this really, actually profoundly healthy way, I think.
Well, and for me, there's such freedom to know that it's not all on me. that my children are responsible for their future. Oh my gosh, there was such freedom when I realized that. It's like, really? I'm not responsible for whether or not they're, successful, whatever that means. They get to decide what success means for them. Whew,
Yeah.
that kind of takes the pressure off. I mean, like,
Does, doesn't it?
there's freedom in that, and there's being able to let go of that. I mean, of course, it's a constant letting go of,
Yep.
of
And
that,
you
but
think you've done it, you're going to do it again and again.
exactly. But there's also freedom to letting them make their choices and make mistakes, and it's hard to watch sometimes because you kind of in your mind you're like, yeah, I know that there
Maybe not
that's
their
gonna
best work.
hurt, and that's gonna be painful, and at the same time, they kinda gotta go through that.
Well, that's how people learn,
That's
right?
how
Is they
you
have to
learn.
be able to make it. So I have a question. I know we need to start
Okay,
watching our time, but I have a
okay.
question. What was it like for you? And what do you have to say to professionals who are also parents who are like dancing with that? I should know this stuff because I'm a professional in this realm. Like, what allowed you to step in as a parent, even though you had this expertise as a parent, as a professional?
Completely different. I mean, it's just a completely different lens. Um, I take going to IEP meetings as an example. I attend IEP meetings with parents, often, and they're not, you know, I'm I can show up and I can be compassionate and I can, help the parent navigate and all that stuff. But when I'm attending an IEP meeting for my own child, it's a completely different experience because that's my child and it's so much more emotional and it's so much more personal and it's so much harder to be objective and to be because I'm not objective. I mean, because this is my part. And so, I mean, like, even if you're a professional, I mean, it's just so much different. So I think I think giving yourself a lot of grace
Mm.
to know that it's different. And I think we have to learn a completely different way. Um, I don't know if
And I think that
that
makes
was
a lot of
helpful.
sense.
I mean,
One of the things you said is that, it is personal. And one of the things we teach in Sanity School and that we struggle with, I think, as parents, is on the one hand, we need to learn to not take it personally. But on the other hand, the tool we teach y'all is called Q-tip, quit taking it personally. But on the other hand, it is very personal. So any thoughts about that dance that you've played over the years? Because you've played it back and forth a lot over the years.
I'm not taking it personally.
Mm.
Well, and I mean, I think that's another way that sanity school really generalizes to life. I mean, other people's behavior is really just not about me. I mean, whether it's my children's behavior, whether it's a teacher's behavior, whether it's my husband's behavior, because I really, it really helps me. And I love Ross Green's work, I think is such a compliment to
Yeah,
Sanity School. I mean, I really do love his work and the way he talks about all behavior being communication
yeah,
is helpful to me because, like, even if, one of my kids is acting really angry or in a way, or, if someone's being, um, just acting whatever way. And, if I can enter into a space that's curious and it's like, I wonder what's going on there. I wonder what's going on. And that's where the iceberg, example is so helpful because I know I only see that little bitty tiny tip of the iceberg. I don't see everything that's underneath it. And so, I mean, I play games in my head a lot. Um, probably too much, but about just trying to, I make up stories about what's going on with people to help me stay out of judgment. And so if you were acting really ugly to me, in my mind, I might be thinking, well, Elaine must have had a really huge fight with her with her boss or with her husband, or something horrible must have happened to Elaine on her way to work. Or, I mean, I make up a story to help me not take it personally. So I guess that's the way I try to stay out of judgment is I just make up creative stories in my
I had a coach.
mind.
I had a trainer when I first started coaching, a guy named Rick Tamlin, who used to say, "We're all making it up, so make it good. You're
Right.
gonna make it up anyway. It's all made up.
Exactly.
The story we tell ourselves is
Exactly.
one of multiple truths. So if we're gonna make up a story that works for us, that works for our kids, that works for the dynamic." Love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Georgia, we have to wrap this conversation.
Okay.
What do you wanna what do you wanna close with? Like, what do you want people to hear from you about, um we haven't really talked about success, but I think I'd love to kinda close with what does success look like for you? What has it looked like for you in this realm of the coach approach with you, your life, your family, whatever, your work? What makes this a successful experience for you? Maybe that's a better question.
I think taking sanity school, teaching sanity school, and being able to lead parents, even if I'm not teaching a class, the work that I do with parents, with my own kids, even in my relationships with, with my friends and with people, the the work that I've learned and all of the skills that I've learned has it's helped shape my life, and it's helped me um be able to see things through a lens that's I don't know, I think of it as more wholeness maybe. That I don't know, being able to stay out of judgment and being able to be curious, um, just allows me to show up in a completely different way. And I've seen success with my kids. Um, I, I mean, I'll give you an example that Augie, I was having trouble staying out of judgment with someone who did something that was really dumb, and I'm aware that that sounds really judgmental that I said that she did something dumb. Uh, um,
I
but
always say stupid should hurt, so I'm with you.
right, right, right. So she did something that was dumb. It was one of my employees. So this is an employee that picked up a snake. Okay. So I I run a summer camp in the summer. Okay. She picked up a snake and she got bit. And I was having trouble being compassionate about that, even though I knew I should be kind of compassionate about that because I felt like it was just kind of it just wasn't a very smart thing to do. I mean, like it's just not very smart to
So
pick up a snake, right? And so I was talking to Augie about it, and I was just like, Augie, I'm having trouble being compassionate. And usually I can feel compassion for people when they do things that aren't very smart. But like, what did she think was going to happen if of course she probably scared the snake, and of course it was going to bite her, and Augie, who's 22, he said, Mom, I think you probably were being compassionate. You're just being compassionate for the snake instead of the human. And I was just like, oh, I just love my children. They're just awesome. And I just think that he learned that from me.
yeah,
And I learned that from Sandy School, I think. I mean, like, and that was he was looking for the good, is what he was looking for. He was looking for the compassion and trying to find how can I assume the best intention here. He was reassuring me, saying, "It's okay, Mom. You really are being compassionate. You're just being compassionate for the snake." I'm like,
love
okay,
that.
okay, Augie. It's
Love
like,
that.
thank you. I know it
Super
was sweet. It was sweet.
Well, and there's so many pieces, there's so much gold in what you just shared because it is that place of I'm noticing myself going to judgment. I don't want to go to judgment. How can I reframe the conversation in my head and create communication that doesn't come from judgment? I mean, all of that is conscious,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If we
Well, that
didn't,
awareness is just huge.
yeah. Yeah.
You can't change behavior that you're not aware of.
No. Well, and I always say you can't control what happens. You can only control how you respond to what happens. And that's quintessentially what parenting is about is, am I responding in a way that continues to grow my kids, to build the relationship, to create an environment that feels safe and healthy. Like that's ultimately what it's about. And then, foster independence and all that other good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Georgia, any final thoughts or words or messages that you want to share before we wrap this conversation?
Well, one thing that we haven't talked about is like I know we touched on kind of fostering independence with kids. One challenge I see sometimes with parents is not empowering kids at a young age to advocate for themselves,
Yeah.
I think, and I do see that um, as a challenge, especially in the school system or really outside the schools, really anywhere. And I think it's important. And so I guess I just want to touch on it a little bit because I mean, both of my kids are in college and they're advocating, I mean, they're navigating getting accommodations and disability services. And so often I hear from parents that their kids go to college. They don't want to ask for accommodations because they don't want to admit that they have a disability. And maybe because the word disability was never used because they, it was thought of as a bad word or something. We never we always used the word disability because it was just a word at our house. And so I guess if I want to encourage parents to tell kids what's going on with them in a way this is just kind of part of who you are. It doesn't define you. I mean, like when Augie was 2 and he was diagnosed with autism, I didn't even really know what that meant, but I was like, all right, buddy, you got autism. We don't really know what that means yet, but we're going to figure it out together. And now they're advocating for themselves and talking to their professors and that's important. And it's not something that they can learn. It's not a one-time conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
It's something that they need to start learning really early, and they can learn it at a young age and continue to learn it. And
Yeah.
it serves them well.
In lots of little ways. And
Mhm.
for those of you who haven't kind of gone through some of the material and some of the learning, if I break it down for you, it starts with creating an environment that makes it okay to make mistakes, creating an environment where asking for help is kind of normalized, right? We want to make it okay to ask for help, not you should be able to do this on your own, um, so that becomes a comfort zone for our kids because it's actually one of the greatest life skills you can learn.
I think we have to model that, which means we have to make mistakes and we have to we have to own our own make mistakes and we have to apologize and we have to, I mean,
Yeah, we have to ask for help and
yeah,
we have to let other people help us, which we're not
yeah,
always so good at.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. We have to kind of own our own stuff.
Kind of what this whole thing is about in a lot of
It's
ways.
really, I mean, people sign up for SANU school because of their kids and it's really it's all about us, really. I mean, it's about owning our own behavior.
Yeah.
It helps your kids, but it's really, I mean, it's not about, if we focus on ourselves, then that's the best thing we can do for our kids is to
Yeah,
own our own stuff.
for sure. It's, parenting is about parent.
Right.
It's like it's
Yeah.
our is to be the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, my friend, thank you. Thank you for all that you have been in part of our world for the last many, many years, and for helping us bring this work out to communities that really need it, benefit from it. It is truly a joy. And thank you for coming and having this conversation with me.
Sure, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
I did too, very much. To those of you listening, take a moment before we wrap today. What are you taking away from this conversation? Which part of this conversation we've talked, about Georgia's journey and Sanity School and the changes for the family and for work, and what are you taking away? What's the insight you've got from this that you want to bring forward with you into your life this week?
Mhm.
And as always, my friends, thank you for what you're doing for yourself and for your kids. Being here, tuning in, listening, this is part of what it means to step into being the conscious parent you really want to be and your kids really need from you. So thank you for doing the work. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to the Parenting with Impact podcast with Elaine and Diane. For more information on the Impact Parents community or to join Sanity School for Parents, please visit impactparents.com. If you like what you've heard, please share this podcast with friends who need similar guidance and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.